Dae Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead and stared at the massive engine core in front of him. The blue light from the quantum fusion drive filled the maintenance bay with an eerie glow. His hands moved automatically over the control panel, checking readings and adjusting power levels. He had done this 1,000 times before, maybe 10,000 times. He had stopped counting years ago. The orbital shipyard stretched for miles in every direction. Through the transparent walls, Dee could see dozens of other bays just like his. Each one held a massive warship. Each ship was powered by technology he had created. His technology. His gift to humanity that had become their curse. "Move faster, human," a harsh voice said behind him. Dae didn't need to turn around. He knew it was Commander Thex, the Velcrin overseer who managed this section of the shipyard. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall with gray skin that looked like armor and forearms that could crush a man's skull without effort. "The core is delicate," Dae replied calmly. "If I rush, the entire drive could fail. Then your ship won't fly anywhere." Thex made a sound like grinding metal. It might have been a laugh. "Always so careful. That's why you're still alive, human. Your usefulness outweighs your defiance." Dae said nothing. He had learned silence was the best response. 15 years had taught him that. 15 long years since the Velcrin arrived. He remembered that day clearly. The sky had filled with their ships. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands of them blotting out the sun. Earth's military had fought back with everything they had. Nuclear weapons, railguns, the new plasma cannons Dae had helped develop. Nothing worked. The Velcrin shields were too strong. Their weapons were too powerful. The war lasted 3 weeks. Then it was over. Earth surrendered. Dae had been in his laboratory when the soldiers came. Not human soldiers, Velcrin warriors who tore through the university like it was made of paper. They had a list of names: scientists, engineers, anyone who had worked on advanced technology. Dae's name was near the top. They didn't kill him. That would have been a waste. Instead, they studied his work. They found his quantum fusion drive designs, plans for an engine that could power a ship using almost no fuel. Energy from nothing, people had called it. Free power for all humanity. The Velcrin saw something else. They saw a way to make their war fleet unstoppable. "This design," their scientist had said, holding up Dae's plans. "You will build it." "Build it for us." Dae had refused at first. They brought in his assistant, shot her in front of him. Then they asked again. Dae built the first engine that same day. Now, 15 years later, every Velcrin warship in the sector used his technology. They had conquered 12 more worlds since Earth, 12 civilizations crushed under their rule. All powered by engines Dae had designed to help people. The irony burned worse than any physical torture. "Core check complete," Dae announced. "The ship is ready for deployment." Thex examined the readings on his data pad. "Acceptable. Return to your quarters. Tomorrow you start on the next vessel." Dae gathered his tools and walked toward the exit. The corridors of the shipyard were always cold, always smelling of metal and ozone. Human workers moved past him, their eyes empty. Most had given up hope. They worked, they ate, they slept. Nothing more, but Dae hadn't given up. He couldn't, not while his mind still worked. He reached his quarters, a small room barely large enough for a bed and a desk. The door sealed behind him. Dae sat down and pulled out a small data pad, one he had modified himself. The Velcrin monitored all communications, but Dae had found ways around their systems. Small ways, careful ways. He typed a message into the encrypted channel. "Drive 739 complete. Standard configuration, no deviations." To anyone watching, it was a simple status report. But hidden in the code was another message. A real message. Somewhere in the underground tunnels beneath the shipyard, Hannah Park would receive it. She led one of the resistance cells that still fought against the Velcrin. Small acts of sabotage, rescue missions, keeping hope alive. Dae's hidden message told her what she needed to know. The locations of guard patrols, weak points in the shipyard security, information that could save lives. But tonight's message had something more. Something Dae had discovered. The Velcrin didn't truly understand his technology. They could use it, yes. They could maintain it by following his instructions. But they couldn't build new drives from scratch. They couldn't improve the design. They needed humans for that. They needed him, that was their weakness. Dae leaned back and closed his eyes. In his mind, he saw the original designs. Every line, every calculation, he had memorized all of it, including the parts he never showed the Velcrin, the fail-safe protocols, the hidden frequencies, the emergency shutdown codes. When he designed the quantum fusion drive, Day had been afraid that such powerful technology could be misused. So he built in safeguard, ways to stop the drives if they fell into the wrong hands. He never imagined he would need them. Never imagined that alien conquerors would force him to build weapons with his own creation, but he had been careful. Every drive he built for the Velcrin had the same hidden weakness. A frequency signature that could destabilize the entire system. One signal, broadcast on the right channel, and every ship would lose power simultaneously. The problem was simple. That signal would also destroy Earth's orbital infrastructure. Thousands of humans worked in these shipyards. If the drives failed, they would die in the vacuum of space. Day couldn't do it. Not yet. Not until he found a better way. His datapad vibrated. A response from Hana. Message received, stay safe. Better days are coming. Day smiled slightly. Better days. He wanted to believe that. He had to believe that. Outside his window, another Velcrin warship powered up its engines. Blue light flared as the quantum drive activated. The ship lifted from its dock and accelerated toward the stars. Going to conquer another world. Going to enslave another species, all powered by Day's genius. He watched until the ship disappeared. Then he returned to his desk and began working. Not on the Velcrin's projects, on his own plans. Plans for freedom. Plans for revenge. The Velcrin thought they had broken humanity. They thought humans were just useful tools now. Workers and slaves who would build their empire. They were wrong. Day Kim was many things. A slave, a prisoner, a builder of their war machines. But he was also something the Velcrin would never understand. He was human, and humans never stopped fighting. They just learned to fight smarter. Tomorrow he would return to the shipyard. He would build more engines. He would smile and obey their orders. And all the while he would plan, because one day the ships he built would fly again, but not for the Velcrin, for Earth, for humanity, for freedom. Tae-Choi crouched in the narrow maintenance tunnel, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The walls pressed close on both sides, and the air tasted like rust and old oil. He had been crawling through these tunnels for 3 hours, checking power conduits and replacing damaged cables. It was boring work, but it kept him alive. More importantly, it gave him access to places the Velcrin never checked. His datapad beeped softly. A message from Day hidden in the maintenance logs. Tay stopped moving and read the coded words carefully. His heart began to beat faster. Day had found something important. Tay finished his work quickly and made his way back to the main service area. He needed to talk to someone who could understand what this meant. He found what he was looking for in the food distribution center. Mina Lee stood behind the counter, serving nutrition paste to tired workers. She looked up when Tay approached and gave him a small nod. No words were needed. They both knew the Velcrin watched everything. Tay took his tray and sat in the corner. 5 minutes later, Mina joined him. "You look excited," she said quietly, stirring her paste without eating it. "Day found something," Tay whispered. "In the old drive designs. A failsafe." Mina's eyes widened slightly, but she kept her face calm. What kind of failsafe? One that could shut down every drive he ever built. All at once. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Around them, hundreds of workers ate their meals in silence. None of them knew that their freedom might be hidden in the very engines that kept them enslaved. "That could end the war," Mina said. "That could free us." "Maybe," Tay agreed. "But there's a problem. If all the drives fail at once, this shipyard will lose power. Life support will fail. Thousands of us will die before rescue comes. If rescue comes," Mina closed her eyes, "so we trade one death for another." Day doesn't want to do it. Not until he finds a better way. Is there a better way? Tay didn't answer. He didn't know. That night, the resistance cell met in the deep tunnels beneath the shipyard. 20 people gathered in a chamber the Velcrin had forgotten about. Hana Park stood at the center, her face lit by a single lamp. "We have new information," she began. "Day has found a weakness in the Velcrin fleet, but using it might kill us all." She explained what Tay had discovered. The room fell silent as people understood what this meant. "We should do it," someone said from the back. "Better to die free than live as slaves." "Easy to say when you're ready to die," another voice argued. But what about the children? The families? The debate grew heated. Hana let them talk. She knew people needed to speak their fears and hopes. But eventually she raised her hand for silence. "We're not making this decision tonight," she said firmly. "We need more information. We need to know if there's another way." "What other way?" someone asked. A new voice spoke from the doorway. "Maybe I can help with that." Everyone turned. A man stepped into the light. He was older, maybe 50, with gray hair and tired eyes. Tay recognized him immediately. "Jin Song," he breathed. "They said you were dead." Jin smiled grimly. "The Velcrin like people to think that. It makes workers more afraid. But I'm alive. I've been working in their weapons development section for 5 years." Hana studied him carefully. "Why are you here?" "Because I've been sabotaging their weapons system since the day they captured me," Jin said. "Small things. Making guns that jam. Missiles that miss. Nothing obvious enough to get caught. But enough to help." "That's suicide," someone whispered. "Maybe," Jin agreed. "But I'd rather die fighting than live building tools for our enemies." He pulled out a data pad and showed it to the group. "I learned something yesterday. The Velcrin are getting paranoid. They think humans are too smart, too dangerous. They're planning to separate the best engineers into special projects, away from the main shipyard." "When?" Hana asked. "Soon, maybe weeks. They want Dae Kim specifically." Tay felt his stomach turn cold. "If they isolate Dae, we lose our best chance of stopping them." "Not necessarily," Mina said slowly. Everyone looked at her. She had been quiet during the meeting, thinking. "I work in food production. I study Velcrin biology because I have to make sure their food doesn't poison them. I've learned something interesting." She stood and faced the group. "Velcrin biology is different from ours. Their cells can't handle certain radiation frequencies that humans tolerate easily." "What kind of frequencies?" Hana asked. "The same frequencies that quantum fusion drives emit during startup," Mina said. "If we could boost that radiation, make it stronger, it wouldn't hurt us. But it would make the Velcrin sick. Very sick." The room erupted in excited whispers. Hana held up her hand again. "How sick?" "Not deadly," Mina admitted, "but incapacitating. They would be too weak to fight. Too weak to give orders. It might give us time." "Time for what?" Jin asked. "Time to take control," Hana said. Her eyes were bright now, seeing possibilities. "If we can disable the Velcrin guards, even for a few hours, we could seize the shipyard. Take the ships." "We don't know how to fly them," someone pointed out. "I do," a new voice said. A young woman stepped forward. Tay didn't recognize her at first, then realized she worked in the hangar bays. "My name is Soranam. I've been watching the Velcrin pilots for years, learning their systems. I've even managed to access their training programs. I can fly their ships. And I can teach others." Hana looked around the room. She saw hope on faces that had been hopeless for years. But she also saw fear, and she understood that fear. "This is dangerous," she said. "If we try this and fail, the Velcrin will kill us all. Not just the Resistance, everyone. They'll make an example of Earth." "They're already making examples of us," Tay said quietly. "Every day we work for them, we're examples. Examples of what happens when you lose. Then maybe it's time to be a different kind of example," Jin added. Hana nodded slowly. "We need a plan. A real plan. Not just hope and anger." "I can help with that," someone else said. A young man pushed through the crowd. "I'm Quan Park. I'm good with computers, very good. I've been mapping the Velcrin systems for 2 years. I know where every guard station is, every security camera, every locked door. And I've been tracking their fleet movements," another woman added. "My name is Yuna Kang. I analyze data for the shipyard. I know which ships come and go, when they arrive, when they leave. I can predict their patterns." Hana looked at all of them. These weren't soldiers. They were scientists and engineers and technicians, but they were ready to fight. "We move carefully," she said. "We plan everything. We wait for the right moment. And when that moment comes, we hit them with everything we have." "What about Dae's failsafe?" someone asked. "The one that could shut down all the drives?" "We keep it as a backup," Hana decided. "But we don't use it unless we have no other choice. Too many people will die if we do." The meeting continued for hours. They discussed details, made plans, assigned tasks. By the time they separated, everyone knew their role. Tai walked back to his quarters with his mind spinning. Could they really do this? Could they actually free themselves? He thought about Dae. working alone in the shipyard, building engines for the enemy while secretly planning their downfall. He thought about all the humans who had died fighting the Velcrin, all the worlds that had fallen. Maybe it was impossible. Maybe they would all die trying, but Tay had learned something in 15 years of slavery. Sometimes the impossible was the only choice left. He reached his room and lay down on his narrow bed. Tomorrow he would return to the maintenance tunnels. He would crawl through the darkness fixing things for the Velcrin, and he would wait. They would all wait, but not forever. Soon, very soon, it would be time to fight. The summons came 3 weeks later. Day was working on a standard engine inspection when Commander Thex appeared with 2 armed guards. "Come with us," Thex ordered. "High Command wants to see you." Day's heart raced, but he kept his face calm. "Is something wrong with the drives?" "Just come." They led him through corridors he had never seen before. These halls were cleaner, wider, with better lighting. This was where the Velcrin officers worked, not the human slaves. After 10 minutes, they stopped at a large door. Inside, the room was impressive. Holographic displays showed maps of the galaxy, fleet positions, battle reports. And in the center stood a Velcrin unlike any Day had seen before. This one wore elaborate armor covered in medals and symbols of rank. "This is Overseer Kral," Thex announced. "He leads our technology division." Kral studied Day with eyes that seemed to see everything. "So you are Day Kim, the human who designed our quantum drives?" "Yes," Day replied simply. "Your work is adequate," Kral said. "But we need more than adequate. We need superior." He gestured to the holographic displays. Day saw battle reports from across the galaxy. The Velcrin were fighting on multiple fronts, and they were losing. 3 rival empires have united against us, Kral explained. They have numbers. They have resources. We have superior technology, thanks to you. But it's not enough. Day said nothing. He waited. "We need better ships," Kral continued. "Faster, more powerful. We need engines that can give us an advantage our enemies cannot match." He turned to face Day directly. "Can you build such engines?" This was it. The moment Day had been preparing for. He could refuse and probably die. Or he could cooperate and maybe, just maybe, find a way to turn this situation into an opportunity. "Yes," Day said. "I can build better engines. Much better. But I'll need resources, equipment, and I'll need to work without constant interruption." Kral's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "You'll have everything you need. But understand this, human. If you fail, or if you try to deceive us, we'll destroy an entire human city. 1 million of your people will die for your mistakes." Day felt cold rage burn in his chest, but he nodded. "I understand." They gave him a laboratory. A real one like he'd had before the invasion. Clean workstations, advanced computers, materials and tools he hadn't touched in years. They also gave him 2 Velcrin scientists to watch him constantly, but they gave him something else too. Freedom to design without someone telling him what to do. Day began working immediately. He designed new quantum cores, better containment fields, more efficient power distribution systems, and while he worked, he planned. Back in the resistance tunnels, Hana received Day's coded messages with growing concern. "He's actually helping them," someone said angrily. "He's making their fleet stronger." "No," Hana said firmly. "He's playing a long game. Look at what he's really telling us." She showed them Day's hidden messages. Between the technical reports were tiny clues. Information about Velcrin fleet positions, their battle strategies, their weaknesses, and more importantly, hints about what Day was really building. "He's designing the new drives to respond to human neural patterns," Yuna said, studying the encoded data. "The Velcrin won't notice because they don't understand the underlying quantum mechanics. But only humans will be able to activate certain functions." "What functions?" Quan asked. "Command overrides," Yuna explained. "If I'm reading this right, humans will be able to take control of any ship using these new drives. The Velcrin pilots won't be able to stop it." Hana smiled slowly. "He's not just building engines. He's building a master key." While Day worked in his laboratory, other resistance members moved forward with their own plans. Mina had been refining her bioweapon. The substance would spread through the shipyard's life support systems, making the Velcrin weak but not killing them. Weak enough to overcome, Jin had been carefully sabotaging the garrison's weapons. Each day a few more guns would malfunction. A few more security systems would have unexplained glitches. Nothing obvious. Nothing traceable. But enough to matter when the time came. Sora had been training other humans in secret. In hidden corners of the shipyard, during brief breaks when guards weren't watching, she taught them Velcrin ship controls. How to read their displays. How to activate systems. How to fly. And Han Lim, the communications specialist, had achieved something remarkable. He had hacked into the Velcrin military network. "I can see everything," he told Hana in a secret meeting. "Every message. Every order. Every battle report." "What are they saying?" Hana asked. Han's face was grim. "They're desperate. The war's going badly. They've lost 3 major battles in the last month. They're gathering every available ship at Earth for one massive assault. 300 vessels. They plan to use them all at once to break through enemy lines." "When?" 2 months. Maybe less." Hana felt her pulse quicken. 300 ships, all in one place. All using Day's new drives, Yuna added softly. The implications hung in the air like electricity. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for. But it was also incredibly dangerous. "We need to tell Day," Tay said. "He needs to know the timeline." The message reached D the next day. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood. Then he smiled. 2 months. He could work with that. He threw himself into the project with renewed energy. The Velcrin scientist watching him noticed his enthusiasm. "You seem eager to help us, human," one of them observed. "I'm eager to build something perfect," Day replied. "This is the finest technology in the galaxy. I want to see it work at its full potential." It wasn't entirely a lie. Day did want to see his creation reach its full potential, just not in the way the Velcrin expected. As weeks passed, the new drives took shape. They were beautiful, even Day had to admit. More efficient than anything he had built before. More powerful. The Velcrin were impressed. Overseer Kral visited the laboratory personally. "Excellent work," he said, examining the prototypes. "These will give us the edge we need." "They'll do more than that," Day said confidently. "These drives will make your fleet unstoppable." Again, not a lie. The drives would make the fleet unstoppable. The question was, who would control that fleet? The testing phase began. Velcrin engineers installed Day's new drives into their warships. One by one, the vessels powered up successfully. The drives performed exactly as Day had promised. Better speed, better efficiency, perfect stability. The Velcrin were delighted. High Commander Vex himself came to inspect the progress. Vex was the supreme Velcrin authority in the Sol system. A massive warrior covered in scars from 100 battles. He stood in the shipyard observation deck and watched as the new fleet took shape below. "These ships will win the war," he declared. "And you, human, have earned your continued existence." Day bowed his head, playing the role of grateful slave. Inside, he was counting down the days. In the tunnels, the resistance prepared for their own role. Mina had produced enough bioweapon to affect the entire shipyard. Jin had finished his sabotage of the garrison's weapons. Sora had trained 50 pilots. Quan had mapped every security system. Yuna had analyzed every possible scenario. They were ready. Or as ready as they would ever be. Hana called one final meeting. "We have one chance," she told them. "One moment when the Velcrin will be vulnerable. When they launch the new fleet, every officer and commander will be focused on that. The shipyard will be full of activity, chaos. That's when we strike." "What if it doesn't work?" someone asked. "Then we die," Hana said simply. "But we die fighting. And maybe, just maybe, we die free." She looked around at the faces of her people, young and old. Scientists and workers, all of them tired of slavery, all of them ready to risk everything. 15 years ago we lost a war," Hana continued. "We were defeated, enslaved, broken, but we survived. And in surviving, we learned, we adapted, we became stronger. The Velcrin think they know humans. They think we're just clever animals who build useful things." She smiled, and it was not a gentle smile. "They're about to learn what humans really are. We're survivors. We're fighters. And we never ever give up." The room erupted in quiet determination. No cheers, no shouting. Just the steady, cold resolve of people who had made peace with death and chosen freedom anyway. Above them, in his laboratory, Day put the finishing touches on the last quantum drive. He ran his hand over the smooth surface. This engine would power the flagship of the Velcrin fleet, the most powerful warship in the sector. Soon it would fly. Soon the whole fleet would launch. 300 ships all under Velcrin command for about 5 minutes. After that, Day thought the real war would begin. 300 warships moved as one, leaving Earth's orbital shipyard behind. The quantum drives hummed with perfect efficiency, pushing the vessels toward the edge of the solar system. Inside each ship, human crews worked at stations designed for Velcrin operators. It should have been impossible, but they had trained for this, prepared for this, lived for this moment. Day coordinated the fleet from the command ship, the massive flagship that had been built for High Commander Vex. The bridge was enormous, designed for Velcrin size. Human crew members looked small in comparison, but they moved with confidence and purpose. "Status report," Day commanded. "All ships reporting ready," Una replied from the tactical station. She had traded data analysis for fleet coordination, and she was good at it. "Weapons armed. Shields at maximum. Formation holding. Incoming transmission," Han announced from communications. "It's the Velcrin battle group. They're demanding we surrender. Put them on screen." A Velcrin commander appeared on the view screen. His face was filled with rage. "This is Fleet Commander Rax. You have stolen Imperial vessels. You will return them immediately or be destroyed." "This is Day Kim," Day replied calmly. "We haven't stolen anything. We're simply taking back what should have been ours from the beginning. These ships are powered by human technology, built by human hands. They belong to us. You are slaves," Rax roared. "You have no rights. No authority." "We were slaves," Day corrected. "Now we're free, and we're keeping these ships. Then you will die. My battle group includes 80 warships. You may have numbers, but my crews are trained warriors. You are engineers playing soldier." Day smiled slightly. "Your crews are warriors who don't understand the ships they fly. We built these vessels. We know every system, every weakness, every advantage. Are you sure you want to fight us?" Rax's answer was to cut the transmission. On the tactical display, his fleet began moving into attack formation. "Here they come," Una said. 80 vessels. "They'll be in weapons range in 3 minutes." Around the command bridge, human crew members tensed. This was the test. Could they really fight the Velcrin? Could scientists and engineers defeat trained warriors? "Sora," Day called over the fleet channel. "Are your fighters ready?" "Born ready," Sora replied from her cockpit. She led a squadron of 50 small attack craft. Fast, maneuverable, deadly in the right hands. Then show them what humans can do. The Velcrin fleet opened fire first. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human ships. But Day had planned for this. The human fleet didn't hold formation and absorb the attack like the Velcrin expected. Instead, they scattered. 300 ships broke apart into smaller groups moving in patterns the Velcrin had never seen. Irregular, unpredictable, chaotic. "They're confused," Una observed. "Velcrin tactics are all about rigid formations. They don't know how to fight opponents who move like this." "Good," Day said. "Fire at will." The human fleet returned fire. And that's when Ty's discovery changed everything. Tay had found that quantum drives could be weaponized. By manipulating the gravity fields they generated, a ship could create localized distortions in space, small black holes that lasted only seconds. But seconds were enough. The first Velcrin ship hit by this new weapon simply tore apart. Its hull crumpled inward, crushed by impossible gravity. The crew didn't even have time to scream. "Direct hit," someone shouted. "Again!" Day ordered. "Target their larger vessels." 10 more human ships fired the gravity weapon. 10 more Velcrin vessels were destroyed in spectacular fashion. The enemy fleet faltered, uncertain how to defend against a weapon they'd never encountered. Sora's fighters darted between the larger ships, targeting weapon systems and engines. The small craft were too fast for Velcrin gunners to track accurately. They struck like wasps, damaging critical systems and retreating before retaliation could arrive. "They're trying to regroup," Una warned, "pulling back to defensive positions." "Don't let them," Day commanded. "All ships, press the attack. Don't give them time to think." The human fleet surged forward. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't by-the-book military tactics. But it worked. The Velcrin expected their opponents to fight like Velcrin, to follow standard fleet doctrine, to be predictable. Instead, they faced humans. Creative, adaptive, unpredictable, and angry. Very, very angry. Jin's sabotage became apparent as the battle continued. Velcrin weapons misfired. Targeting systems glitched at critical moments. Small things, carefully planted months ago, now paying off in the chaos of battle. Within 20 minutes, half the Velcrin fleet was destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels tried to retreat. Day almost let them go. Almost. Then he remembered 15 years of slavery, remembered friends who had died, remembered children who had grown up knowing only Velcrin rule. No mercy, he said quietly. They came to our home. They enslaved our people. They took everything from us. Now they learned the cost. The human fleet pursued. When the battle ended, not a single Velcrin ship remained operational. On the command bridge, humans stared at their displays in shock. They had won. Against trained warriors in a straight fight, they had won. Casualties? Day asked. 7 ships damaged, Una reported. 32 wounded. 5 dead. Day closed his eyes briefly. 5 dead. 5 humans who chose to fight and paid the ultimate price. He would remember their names. But right now there was no time to mourn. Sir, Han interrupted. I'm picking up a massive energy signature. Something big is coming. The tactical display updated. Day felt his blood run cold. More than 200 Velcrin ships had just entered the system. The main Velcrin fleet responding to the earlier battle, and leading them was a vessel larger than anything Day had ever seen. A dreadnought, the Empire's most powerful ship class. That's High Command's personal flagship, Una whispered. They sent everything. Can we fight that? Someone asked nervously. Day studied the display. 200 fresh enemy ships plus a dreadnought. His fleet was damaged from the previous battle. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but not outthought. Una, analyze the enemy formation. Look for patterns, weaknesses. On it. Han, open a channel to all our ships. Make sure everyone can hear this. When the channel opened, Day spoke clearly and calmly. This is Day Kim. I know what you're all thinking. We're outnumbered. They have more ships, more weapons, more experience. By every logical measure, we should lose this fight. He paused, letting that sink in. But logic didn't free us from slavery. Logic didn't give us control of these ships. Logic said we should give up 15 years ago when the Velcrin first arrived. We didn't listen to logic then. We're not going to start now. Around the bridge, crew members straightened. Screens across the fleet showed determined faces. The Velcrin think they know us, Day continued. They think we're just clever animals. Good at building things, but not real warriors. They're right about one thing. We're not warriors. We're something better. We're humans. And humans don't need to be warriors to win. We just need to be smarter than our enemies. I've got something, Una interrupted. The dreadnought. It has old generation shields. They never upgraded because it was already so powerful. But those shields are vulnerable to concentrated quantum disruption. How concentrated? Every ship we have firing simultaneously. For at least 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time, Jin observed. We'll be sitting targets. Then we need a distraction, Day said. Sora, can your fighters keep their smaller ships busy? We can try, Sora replied. But those are fresh crews. They won't be as easy as the last group. You don't need to destroy them. Just keep them occupied. Make them chase you instead of helping the dreadnought. Understood. The plan came together quickly. It was insane. Probably suicidal. But it was a chance. The Velcrin fleet entered weapons range and opened fire immediately. The space between the two fleets filled with energy beams and missiles. Human ships scattered again, dodging and weaving. Sora's fighters launched, racing toward the enemy. The Velcrin responded exactly as predicted, sending their own fighters to intercept. The battle became a swirling chaos of small craft darting between larger vessels. All ships, Day commanded. Focus fire on the dreadnought. Ignore everything else. Quantum disruption on my mark. 300 ships turned to face the massive vessel. The dreadnought's shields flared as it absorbed fire from dozens of sources. But old shields, no matter how powerful, had limits. 20 seconds, Una counted down. Shields at 70%. Keep firing. Velcrin ships tried to protect their flagship, but Sora's fighters kept them busy. Human pilots flew with reckless courage, drawing fire away from the main fleet. 10 seconds. Shields at 40%. The dreadnought fired back. Its weapons were enormous. A single shot destroyed a human frigate instantly. Another shot disabled a cruiser. 5 seconds. Hold formation, Day shouted. Don't break now. The countdown reached 0. The dreadnought's shields failed. For a brief moment, the massive ship was vulnerable. Gravity weapons, Day ordered. Fire everything. 50 ships unleashed the weaponized quantum drive simultaneously. Space itself twisted around the dreadnought. The massive vessel groaned and buckled. Armor plating tore away. Internal systems exploded. And then, in a flash of light visible across the entire solar system, the dreadnought exploded. The shockwave knocked nearby ships aside like toys. The Velcrin fleet stopped advancing, stunned by the loss of their flagship. "Now," Day commanded. "While they're disorganized, hit them hard!" The human fleet surged forward. This time they had momentum. They had confidence. They had already killed a dreadnought. What was a few hundred normal ships compared to that? The battle raged for 2 more hours. It was brutal, costly. By the end, the human fleet had lost 40 ships, but the Velcrin fleet was destroyed. When the last enemy vessel exploded, silence filled the communication channels. Nobody could quite believe it. They had won, actually truly won. Status of all ships, Day said. Reports came in slowly. Damage, casualties, but also survival. Victory. Hana's voice came over the fleet channel. "This is Hana Park to all human forces. We have defended Earth. We have defeated the Velcrin. Today humanity proves it will never be enslaved again." Cheers erupted across every ship. Crew members hugged each other. Some cried. Others just sat in stunned silence, but Day didn't celebrate. Not yet. He opened a channel to the entire Sol system. To Earth. To Mars. To every human colony and station. "This is Day Kim speaking from the flagship of the Free Human Fleet. Today we won a battle, not through superior strength or numbers, but through ingenuity and determination. The Velcrin came to our home expecting to find slaves. They found warriors." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "But this war isn't over. The Velcrin Empire still exists. Other worlds remain under their control. Other species suffer as we suffered. We have a choice now. We can stay here and rebuild, protect only ourselves, or we can take this fight to them. We can free others as we freed ourselves." The vote didn't take long. Humanity had tasted freedom again, and now they wanted to share it. 3 weeks later, a fleet of human ships jumped to hyperspace. Destination, the Velcrin homeworld. Not to conquer, not to enslave, but to teach the galaxy a lesson. You can oppress people. You can enslave them. You can force them to build your weapons and power your ships, but you can never truly break the human spirit. Because humans, when pushed far enough, don't just fight back. They fight to win, and they never stop until they do.